You an actor like Johnny Depp, doing from exponential potential to not being able to pay for the rental or even a bill from the dental. Now how's that for your mental? I've been through hard times too. The situation demand I bring the hard rhymes through. That's why I'm all times too. Half-past despicable, last man to bring it through. Fast raps and critical stats, analytical slap. I'm hitting you smack. I'm sticking you smack lips to stack chips, all with the lyrical technique.
In a bare but sleek interview room with a single long table, the stranger addresses the married couple. He places an item on the table in an ovaloid pool of light.
For party crashes, liquor spilling mayhem. Punk cops to play them, super bitches to slay them. Saw serious biz, no time remains for the cattle defecation. You spitting right in this spraying, what the
A black box with a single red button. You know, it's the kind that looks like it would stand up to a good palm mashing. Stranger says, "My proposition is this. You are now in the world's largest mall. Almost anything you can think of, or would ever want, is in stock. At the best prices. And it will appear on your doorstep within 2 days. Think of it and press the button and it's yours." Now, the couple who he's talking to, which is a young, well-to-do creative industry couple, the husband starts to reach out for the box, and the stranger's like, "But there's a condition." And the husband's hand just falters a bit. "Every time you press the button, a working person with no health insurance wets their pants and gets repetitive motion injury." The husband thinks for a second. Then, wham! "I want an LED octopus-shaped toothbrush." The wife, wham! "What the fuck? I love dolphin peppermint face rub." Wham! The husband's like, "Oh, Ricky and Paul said they love these books." Wham! "I'm too tired to shop for school supplies today." Wham! 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 Welcome to Breakup Gaming Society. It's a place of great mirth and levity. I'm your host and guide, the Great Unclean One. We're going to talk about board games, booze, and hip-hop on this show today. And you're also going to hear, at least in the Drink of the Week and Game of the Week, the emergence of a new character. His name is Augustus Crimes. He was one of my best friends from 1983, who I got disconnected with for 3 years, but with whom I have now made a rapprochement. He figures largely in a couple of these segments. So when I say Augustus Crimes, you'll know who I'm talking about, right? So, in specific, Drink of the Week, we're going to talk about Don Julio 65. Second, Game of the Week is going to be Cockroach Poker. And we're also going to talk about the Christmas Miracle and why the social overlay is the most important thing for board gaming. And then lastly, I haven't picked it out yet, but we are going to go back to one of the best underground flotillas of super earnest MCs and producers ever to have lived. We're talking about D.I.T.C, the Diggin' in the Crates crew. In particular, Lord Finesse. Now, I've been on a kick where I don't want to listen to anything but Lord Finesse for the last 2 weeks. And in my head, there's this weird admixture of his best punchlines from 30 songs, but I'm going to have to pick one. And then at the very end, I've been feeling undernourished in terms of having read or having shared poetry. So I'm going to go on to poetryfoundation.org, pick a poem, and try to read it cold. That's what's going to happen. In just a couple, there's going to be some loud noises, and then we're going to do a Drink of the Week. Does that work for you? As promised, the Great Unclean One is back with you for Drink of the Week. I misidentified it in the intro. It's not Don Julio 65, it's Don Julio 70, which is billed as a Crystal Claro Añejo, which is counterintuitive to me because I always think of a good añejo as having an amber or caramel color. But here I am in Costco with, I don't know, anywhere from $1,200 to $1,500 in my checking account. It's 3 days before Christmas, or 2 days. I can't remember. I've just quit a job that made me miserable, and I figure I deserve a treat. So I bought a fifth of it. And then I reconnected with Augustus Crimes. The most important thing to know about this segment is we'd been friends for 33 years, but I hadn't seen him in 3. B, we're both alcoholics, and I think over the course of 2 sittings in our hotel, which I'm going to tell you more about, I think the casualties included my fifth of Don Julio 70, a 700 ml of Jack Daniel's Bonded, most of a fifth of Monopoloa vodka. That didn't count the 6 drinks we had out at another hotel that had an unlikely bar open on Christmas. And I'm pretty sure Crimes knocked down a bottle of wine on top of all that. That was across 2 sits, if that gives you a picture. But having got another late and unlikely wave of checks from my contractor work, I was up in Colorado Springs and I bought it again. I am holding Don Julio 70 Crystal Claro Añejo. And honestly, the first time we drank a bottle of this, there's not a lot I remember. I was generously pouring. Every time I saw Crimes was below a finger, I would just top him off. He was drinking out of a plastic cup in the King Suite that I'd had for, I don't know, it was ridiculous. $66 a night in a deserted hotel with just my buddy. It was glorious, playing loud music. And here's what I remember. I'm going to drink it again, but what I remember is it had this really neat vanilla taste and an incredibly light body, but also a nice sting from the tip to the back of the tongue. I remember when I first poured it out, he's like, hey, do we need, salt and lime? I'm like, that's for people who will not invest in a good bottle of tequila. Jose Cuervo is not tequila. I'm sorry, it's not. I think I had a buddy say, heard that they bring it up in tankers, low grade, mix it with shitty rum, and then they put it in the bottle. It's not tequila. If you have a good tequila in hand, you don't need the salt or the lime ever. And anyway, I swore I was going to save the bottle. I told him, I'm going to save this. This was expensive. I'm going to get back, to Trinidad, Starkville with this. But after our second night together, I woke up and that bottle had a couple drams left in it. And, he felt bad and said, he goes, I know you wanted to save it. I'm like, you know what? What was I saving it for? I saw you for the first time in 3 years, and it was spotty in memory, but it was beautiful. And but in either case, I've got another one. The drink is Don Julio 70, Crystal Claro Añejo. And you can hear the creaking of the packaging there. As I remember it, it's an absolutely wonderful drink, full of it's again a nice balance. When I drink liquor, I don't want the liquor hidden from me. I want to taste just the liquor in all its dimensions. I remember tasting a bunch of very soft and a bunch of hard notes side by side. The burn of the alcohol backed with, again, this flower bed of weird softer colors. So it must have been good because we drank the whole thing. Anyway, tonight I'm drinking a stout and a Jim Beam Devil's Cut whiskey. But that tequila must have made some kind of impression on me, because even despite the blackout, because I bought it again, we're going to drink it again. But I do feel confident in recommending it. We're going to be right back with the second part of the Christmas miracle, that is my reunion with Augustus Crimes and our unlikely befriending of 4 Indian families in a hotel that looks from the front like it was closed, and on the back is bounded by a most desolate dry lake you've ever seen, but which became home to one of the best board gaming experiences I've ever had, which we're going to hear about momentarily in Game of the Week. Game of the Week was supposed to be Sagrada, which is a beautiful game, about using different color and values of dice to build a more high-scoring stained glass window than your friends. In case you didn't listen to the previous segment, I was at a hotel which was entirely draped in its front in plastic. I guess they had foundational problems, and it looked like it was closed when I came up. And I was like, I just got snookered. I booked a hotel that doesn't exist. Then I see this little sign that says lobby around back, and I go in, and lo and behold, there's a fully functioning hotel. And I spent the first night there, and then in the morning, the phone rings. Not my phone, but the room phone. I'm like, what the hell is this? I pick it up, and I hear Augustus Krine's voice. He goes, yeah, I just checked in. What do you mean you just checked in? He goes, I'm in 127. I'm like, fuck you, you're in 127. But I go down, and it turns out he was in 127. So that night, with him grazing away at a number of takeout packages that he got from his full steak dinner at the nearby Outback Steakhouse, and me already getting several pours in to a 700 milliliter of Jack Daniel's Bonded, I'm looking across the table at him, and this is how faded I'm getting because I didn't see them come in on my 6. He's like, why am I smelling curry? And I look around, and I've been teaching Crimes how to play Sagrada. 4 Indian families have come in, 4 husbands, 4 wives, and 6 kids. I'm guessing ages 6 to 8 from at the top range, maybe 10 to 12. 6 kids. And here's the beautiful moment. It's Christmas Eve or the night before Christmas Eve, and this hotel's empty. And I thought I was just going to sit there with my old buddy who I haven't seen too long and just play Sagrada all night. But while we're finishing our first game, I just feel this presence on my right shoulder, and one of the youngest of the kids has walked up. This little kid. He's so short that I can only see his eyes over the line of the table, and they're glowing. He's looking at this game like, what the fuck is this? And it's like, I know that look. I was like, this kid wants to play, doesn't he? I look over at him. He's like, what's this? I say, Sagrada. And I start describing the game to him, and before I know, all the kids have assembled, and they're listening. And you could tell, it's like they want to play. And here's the sermon for today. I don't care what the mechanics or the theme or its engineering is. If you don't have a game group that's A, just delighted to play, B, playing with people who don't care about you or care about the game, then you have no good games. I cannot conceive of just showing up to a game cafe or board game store just to play a game, because it's not fun if I don't know any of the people and they're not my friends and there's not riffing and I'm not in a house in which I'm loved, etc., etc. And I bemoaned for years the late realization of this fact, because there was a time where me and my ex-wife had the group, 6 of us. And it was always assumed that by every Saturday, 6 o'clock, we would be at our kitchen table getting ripped and playing games, usually a heavy, crunchy game to start the night, which would take us anywhere from 2 to 4 to 6 hours. And then from 10 to 1, we'd play light games as we were able. But then it turned out that it's when Jay and Becca moved away, and then Carlos moved away, and then Gavin had a kid, all of a sudden it turned out that those 60 games on our shelf weren't getting any love. And the other friends we had, it just wasn't the same. I remember trying to get other couples over for game night, and 9 o'clock would hit, and I'd see the wife looking at the husband, elbowing him. It's 9 o'clock. like it's time to go. It's like 9 o'clock, so we should just be getting started. So the Christmas miracle is realizing that while you're bemoaning the lack of a game group, sometimes the best game group finds you. And it was this group of kids. And it was one. So to set the scene, we're in a lobby of this Fairfield Marriott something, and you've got 4 husbands and 4 wives, and they're not paying much attention to us. But, as more of the kids pile over, I'm like, oh, these kids are players. They want to play games. Who would I be to refuse them? And I told them the game that my friend Crimes and I were playing only seats 4. However, being the calculating drunk that I am, I'd also brought a copy of Cockroach Poker, which is basically, well, here's how I described it to the kids. I'm like, do you all like nuisance species? And they all go, like cockroaches and spiders? And they all go, ew. And then I said, do you like lying? And they all go, yeah. And while I'm setting up the game for them, they're all chanting, lying, lying, lying. And I remember there were a bunch of them, but the attention monger of the 4 is this very adorable little June bug of a girl who looks at me and her eyes get big and she says, I'm good at lying. I'm like, well, we're going to find out. Long story short, I end up becoming the world's drunkest camp counselor, guiding these 6 kids through several rounds of Cockroach Poker. Now, at some point, their parents decide we're okay, because I remember at one point, one of the wives, without having said anything to me, just deposits a paper plate full of ice cream and cake in front of me. It was one of the boys' 9th birthday. And then later, another one of the wives walks up and deposits a plate full of tandoori chicken in front of Crimes. And then I look around again, and the husbands who have finally been paying attention. Now, this was difficult for me because the age range was so wide, I had to memorize which kids had which grasp of the game. Like the 9s, 10s, and 11s, and 12s got the rules immediately and became cutthroats. But the kids who were 6, 7, and 8, they didn't quite get the mechanics, and so I'd have to remember how to coach each one through their turn. Yeah, there it is. And we played Cockroach Poker with these kids, and at one point, one of the moms comes up to me and says, you're very nice, which is funny because me and Crimes are both fucking faced, but I guess they weren't that worried because, we were line of sight the whole time. She goes, I hope they're not a bother. I'm like, a bother? I'm like, lady, these are some of the coolest people I've ever met in my whole life. In the morning, when Crimes and I were all befuddled and hung over in the lobby, the whole troop issued out again. I think the oldest was, she was adorable. She was wearing reindeer ears, and they were all in fresh clothes, fresh everything, blah, blah. And I remember this scene where it's just Crimes and I, these 2, derelict bachelors trying to cope with a hangover. And we're at either side of the hallway, and the entire family, every husband and wife, are running between us, giving us fist bumps. And the kids so loved Cockroach Poker. I said, if you're going to Denver, which they were, I said, go into the Wizard's chest. And first of all, I apologize to the 4 dads because you probably all got asked to buy 70 games that day. But here's the wonderful thing that I love thinking about, which is, what if, just by virtue of seeing all the cellophane, all the shrink wrap, all the different themes on all those shelves, that those 6 beautiful kids have maybe become board gamers for life? In either case, that was my Christmas miracle, was when the perfect game group came to me. We are going to be back in a moment talking about a Lord Finesse track. I am your host and friend, the Great Unclean One. So first of all, I want to thank my Twitter homie, @DJServe1, I've always loved Lord Finesse, but I had never heard the remix and the aggressiveness of the Party Over Here remix like I had with Finesse. Now, if any of my friends who are heads, you already know where I'm at, but for our young kids, there used to be a crew, a loose association of rappers and producers, and in their age, they were second only to maybe Boot Camp Click, and they were called the Diggin' in the Crates crew, D.I.T.C. Now, in my mind, AG and Showbiz were the beating heart and soul of the crew, but the crew at times also included Joey Crack, a.k.a. Fat Joe the Gangster, Big L, rest in peace, and the guy we're going to talk about today, Lord Finesse. If you want meat and potatoes, early 90s battle rap over tight beats with a guy whose attitude and projection is just like a natural sneer, Finesse is your man. But first of all, I just want to give a few seconds to how, I don't know who remixed this, but it's a furious breakbeat with a really nice that's nice, jazz bass sample. Tell me if you think I'm wrong.
Tonight you're gonna party with the assigned ruler. Grab a girl and lounge back with a...
So yes, never as famous as his contemporaries, but every bit as skilled. I sort of think of him as the spiritual forebear of Sean Price, a neighborhood dude who just had mad skills and confidence and didn't owe anything to anybody. Check out some of his rhyming craft here.
When it comes to rhyme, I got all flavors. I get funky and a bunch of musky ball players. That's the reason why I always rag shows. Been rhyming since the days of bell bottoms and afros. So welcome all contenders. Your boys that get played like overlap with suspenders. So sit back and just bust this. Or sing along with Hammer, cause you know you can't touch this. Y'all be kicking raps, talking about this and that. Say I can't get with that chicken scratch, picture that. I always manage to slam and damage crews. I got more flavor than Spanish food. On top of the spot when I rock, that's why things get too hot. I got more hits than a jukebox. Was nice in the days, but I'm still ill. MCs better chill and watch a brother with real skills. Can't meet this, defeat this, or beat this. Word to Miz, I leave them corny brothers speechless. So don't stare, make some noise and cheer. Throw your hands in the air, cause it's a party over here.
Another thing that Lord Finesse was a great punchline rapper, and one of the things that they did on his albums was when there was no punchline, he would have a bunch of his crew come on the studio and ask him the setup, and he'd deliver it like this.
What's up, Finesse? Just cool and black. I don't worry about others because the brothers ain't doing jack. I'm launching in a gym that's packed to the rim. Give me the cash, the props, the fame, and I'm in. Well, the lounge and I'm maxing, chilling or relaxing. It won't hurt to check me out in live action. Step in, watch Mike Smooth spin for ladies and men.
I love that. I'm not worried about his brothers because his brothers ain't doing jack. So who's the best is? Lord Finesse is. Now and forever. Come back in just a minute for the outro, where I'm going to scroll through poetryfoundation.org's recently published poems and try to read one cold. Wish me luck. All right, here we go. I'm getting settled here. I think I promised you a poem, and we are going to deliver it. This is the Great Unclean One, by the way. Colonel Hector Bravo. No. My name tonight is the Great Unclean One. And I went on to Poetry Foundation, and I tried to quick read the first poem I saw that looked good, and it was by Leila Benitez James, and it's called Stop and Look Alicante. Here we go. Oh, pardon me. Why is there under the sea always an other sea? Whoa. Time out. This is the Great Unclean One, who, having reviewed this segment in a less inebriated state of mind, decided to come back and try and read it again. I guess it's fine to belch and slur your way through one of Bukowski's racetrack poems, but, I'm listening to my reading of this and cannot escape the feeling that it deserved a little better than I gave it. So I read it again, and I'm going to come back and try to do it sober. It's called, I think I already said this, Stop and Look Alicante by Leila Benitez James. Why is there, under this sea, always another sea? Scrolling through miles of leopard print bikinis, I wonder, could I go all out? Just imagine where my cleavage should peak. Would peak from under. Do I go for cider classic? Which stretch marks will I sun, running like shoals of mica palmed by waves? Will I add a shell accent? Some saddie on the web says, a hungry moon snail made the mark, says, moon snails release an acid to soften the shell, then drill a borehole, a toothed tongue, and feed off the meat of the quote-unquote victim. What if I lost these breaths altogether? I'm hunting. Another saddie says, those holes were made by a boring sponge, drilling holes into shells for their calcium. The leopard walks on water. Their claws just prick the surface without going under. You're a heavy cat, and I wish I had your muscle. Just imagine. I could love it. There we go. I haven't reviewed it, but I already feel better about myself. So, cool poem, and that's the end of the show. This is The Great Unclean One. Now I start in with the fuck-ups and flubs. This is The Great Unclean One of Breakup Gaming Society saying thank you for indulging me, and may you fight long and well.